mystery rapper has emerged throughout Jane's testimony.
She had said that 98% of the time she did not want to be participating in the hotel nights with Sean Combs.
Imagine being forced into bizarre hotel sex parties as a teenager. That's exactly what Jane claims happened during her tumultuous relationship with Diddy in court. Her shocking words painted a harrowing picture, leaving Diddy visibly shaken and the courtroom silent. What exactly did she say to cause such a reaction?
A mystery rapper has emerged throughout Jane's testimony, Jane being the woman who is testifying against Sean Combs under a pseudonym. Jane is not her real name. So during direct examination, when she was being questioned by prosecutors, Jane spoke about a time where she flew on the private jet of a famous rapper, but that rapper has been unnamed. She said that she went to Vegas with a group of people. This was in January 2024, when Jane and Combs were not dating at the time. She said that when they landed in Vegas, that the group went to a dinner. At that dinner in Vegas, Jane said that she was surprised to see Anton. Anton was one of the male entertainers who her and Combs had been with during those hotel nights, otherwise known as freak-offs. She said that after this dinner that the group went up to the hotel room of this unnamed famous rapper, and that male entertainer was having sex with another woman while the entire group walked.
Diddy, a name synonymous with power in the music world, now finds himself in the fight of his life, a federal criminal trial that threatens to do more than just tarnish his reputation. This isn't about a feud or a scandal that can be brushed off with a flashy PR campaign. No, this is different. These are federal charges tied to allegations that go far beyond the usual celebrity controversies, and the stakes couldn't be higher. The empire Sean Combs built and the legacy he's cultivated could completely crumble depending on what unfolds in this courtroom. The allegations at the heart of this case are nothing short of shocking. Jane, the woman at the center of it all, has accused Diddy of coercing her into unthinkable acts, manipulating her life, and controlling her every move. According to her testimony, Diddy forced her into what she described as drug-fueled freak-offs with other men, bizarre and disturbing gatherings that paint a deeply troubling picture of abuse and exploitation. She claims this pattern of control, humiliation, and emotional manipulation started when she was very young, which adds a whole other layer of concern regarding the dynamics of this alleged relationship. And it's not just the nature of the allegations that's jarring, it's the sheer imbalance of power they suggest. At the time when this supposed relationship began, Diddy was already an industry giant, someone with immense resources, influence, and connections. Jane, by her account, was far from being anything close to an equal in their dynamic. This kind of power imbalance is unfortunately a pattern seen in many cases of alleged grooming and coercion.
Asked more questions about this alleged incident. She asked about who this rapper was. She said, isn't it true that he was, quote, at the top of the music industry? Jane said yes. She said, isn't it true that he was a, quote, icon in the music industry? Jane said yes. She said, isn't it true that he and Sean Combs were very close, both as personal friends, and they had also recorded music together? And Jane said yes. And Henny Garagos asked if the purpose of this trip to Vegas was that this rapper was going to celebrate the birthday of his girlfriend or wife. And Jane said yes. Did you flash your breasts at one point back in this hotel room when you were all partying? And Jane said yes. She was asked how that happened. Did anyone force her? And she just said, no, it was in the moment and we were having fun. Now, Jane also said that she was asked by this rapper and his wife or girlfriend to call another male entertainer. When asked by the defense, why would they ask you to do that? She said, because, quote, they picked up on that energy. And she also said that she believed that they knew that me and Sean were, quote, doing similar things.
One was that in one of her notes to herself that was kind of like a diary, she had said that 98% of the time she did not want to be participating in the hotel nights with Sean Combs. The prosecution wanted that note to be in evidence. The defense argued against it, and the judge said it would not be admitted. The other thing that the lawyers spent a lot of time arguing about today was this trip that Jane had taken in January of 2024. She and Combs were on a break. She said that she went on another rapper's private jet. They went to Vegas, where they went to dinner, went to a show, and then went to a hotel where one of the sex workers that Jane and Diddy had previously spent several nights with was there performing sex acts with a woman while 7 or 8 of other people watched.
Legal experts have noted that such situations are often defined by the abuser wielding their influence as a tool to not only maintain control, but also to convince the victim that they have no way out. In fact, cases like the R. Kelly trial set a precedent demonstrating how courts have started to scrutinize similar allegations with a focus on these very dynamics. But here's where things escalate. Jane didn't just describe the control Diddy allegedly had. She detailed the toll she says it took on her well-being. According to her, the years of being manipulated and coerced caused her significant physical and emotional turmoil. She mentioned frequent urinary tract infections, chronic back pain, and lasting depression, all of which she claims stemmed from the abuse she endured. These aren't the kind of details you can easily gloss over or dismiss. They give her accusations weight, transforming them from abstract claims into a lived experience. That's hard to ignore. Of course, Diddy's defense team will argue otherwise, but Jane's testimony has already shifted the energy in this trial. Her words have put a face to the allegations, even if her real name and identity remain sealed for her safety. The courtroom now has an unmistakable tension, with Diddy's team scrambling to mount a defense against claims that are not only emotionally charged, but also central to the prosecution's case, and the prosecution by all accounts is treating Jane's story as their linchpin. If her testimony proves credible, it bolsters the other evidence stacked against Diddy, potentially making it impossible for the defense to poke enough holes in the case to sway the jury. That's why Jane's testimony feels like a make-or-break act moment. This trial isn't just about what happened behind closed doors, it's about whether one of the most powerful figures in entertainment will finally be held accountable as allegations about coercion and manipulation unfold. One thing becomes clear: this isn't just a courtroom fight, it's a battle for celebrity accountability in the culture at large. Jane's story is about shining a light on behaviors that have historically been buried under fame and money, and while Diddy's defense will likely aim to discredit her story, the impact of her testimony so far can't be denied. What exactly did Jane say that left Diddy reeling? You're going to want to hear this. It's enough to shake even the most unshakable public figures.
Because her job put her inside the core of Diddy's business empire. Now, Clark testified that she was kidnapped, her words, when Diddy found out that Cassie Ventura was dating Kid Cudi. She also told the jury today about the multiple times that Diddy had threatened her own life, including during her very first day on the job. And she said that Diddy had final approval over every aspect of Cassie's career. Now, Clark, she worked for Diddy on and off for more than a decade, starting first as a personal assistant in 2004. And what she alleged happened in December of 2011 may be the most shocking. That's when Diddy discovered that Cassie was in a relationship of some kind with Kid Cudi. She said that Diddy banged on her door around 6 o'clock in the morning, holding a gun, and furious she didn't tell him about Cassie and Cudi. Clark says to the jury, quote, "He just said, get dressed, we're going to kill this N-word." And when she tried to protest, she said Diddy told her, "I don't give an F what you want to do. Go get dressed."
Capricorn, Clark, and Ventura, Cassie Ventura, went to see Sean Combs at his Los Angeles homes. Combs, after he had broken into Kid Cudi, Combs was in a robe and underwear and immediately began kicking Cassie. This is right when he's finding out that she'd been allegedly having an affair with Kid Cudi. Not allegedly. Cassie says it's so, and so did Kid Cudi. And he immediately began kicking Cassie. Capricorn Clark says she and a security guard stood by as Combs repeatedly kicked Cassie Ventura. Capricorn said Combs threatened to hurt her, too. She tried to stop him. Capricorn Clark said she left after the security guard told her to leave. Cassie Ventura was still on the ground while Combs continued to kick her. Capricorn said she called Cassie Ventura's mom, Regina, as she left, saying, quote, "Please help her. I can't call the police, but you can." Regina Ventura said she would handle it and hung up.
What happened in that courtroom left more than just Diddy shaken. Jane, the prosecution's star witness, took the stand and laid out a story so detailed and disturbing that it left the room stunned. Everyone knew her testimony would be critical. She's the key to the government's case. But what no one could have prepared for was how deeply personal and explosive her allegations would be as she began recounting her time with Diddy. The sense of control, manipulation, and abuse she described painted a picture Of someone whose entire life had been consumed by another person's power. Jane described in vivid, almost chilling detail the so-called freak-offs. She says Diddy forced her to attend. These weren't just any parties. According to Jane, they were hotel gatherings where drugs were freely available and sex with multiple men wasn't just encouraged, it was, in her words, required. She told the court that she had no choice in the matter, that Diddy would coerce her into participating by reminding her of the money and access he gave her, turning the life he provided into a weapon of control. Jane admitted to being drugged at these events, explaining how it was often harder to say no when she wasn't in full control of herself. The vividness of her testimony left no room for interpretation. It wasn't just about wild parties, it was about systematic degradation disguised as indulgence that was just the beginning. Jane went on to describe the suffocating control Diddy allegedly had over her every move. She said he was obsessive about ensuring she was always financially and emotionally dependent on him. Gifts of money and luxurious dinners became part of a cycle that Jane claimed wasn't generosity but manipulation designed to keep her tethered to him. All of this created a dynamic where even when she felt humiliated, leaving wasn't an option. She explained that saying no to Diddy came with a price, whether it was verbal intimidation, emotional threats, or complete isolation. She said he always found ways to make her regret defiance. The toll this relationship took on her, she said, went far beyond the surface. Jane shared heartbreaking details about the lasting impact, saying she suffered physically from repeated urinary tract infections and unexplainable back problems. On top of that, the mental strain left her feeling trapped in a spiral of deep depression. She described waking up some days feeling completely empty, questioning if she'd ever have a life outside of Diddy's influence. Her testimony didn't just outline the events that allegedly took place, it gave the courtroom a window into the long-lasting consequences she says resulted from those experiences. Legal experts often highlight how power imbalances like this can lead to the kind of coercion Jane described. Studies show that in abusive relationships where one party holds most of the control, emotional manipulation is often one of the most effective tools. Jane's testimony aligns with these patterns. Diddy's alleged ability to make her feel indebted or powerless is consistent with other high-profile cases where similar dynamics were at play. One legal analyst pointed out that the specificity and emotional depth of her testimony would make it difficult for the defense to brush off her claims as fabricated or exaggerated. That difficulty was clear in the reaction inside the courtroom as Jane recounted these events. Diddy reportedly couldn't hide his emotions. Witnesses noted that he appeared visibly upset, almost defeated as her words filled the room. The tension grew as her story progressed, each detail more damning than the last. By the time she finished, the courtroom sat in silence, stunned by just how much her testimony revealed. For the prosecution, this wasn't just about shock value, it was the backbone of their case, connecting Diddy directly to charges of coercion, manipulation, and abuse. But of course, the defense will now face the monumental task of picking apart her story. Jane's account might be powerful, but is it bulletproof? Her credibility will likely become the focus of Diddy's legal team as they work to find anything that can cast doubt on her claims, and in high-profile cases like this one, that can be a brutal process not only for Jane, but for anyone watching. As the trial digs into such intimate, painful details, the stakes couldn't be higher. What comes next won't just determine the case's outcome, it will set the tone for how victims of powerful men are heard in courtrooms everywhere.
Star witnesses taking the stand, but it was more than that. It was how Cassie took that stand. You hear a pin drop when those doors open, and a visibly pregnant Cassie Ventura walking past a man she had not seen in 6.5 years. A man she says violently abused her for a decade. A man the prosecution said trafficked her. Well, she sat across from him, placed her overcoat behind her, turning her body slightly toward the jury, rubbing her pregnant belly throughout her testimony. Diddy, well, he was more fidgety than he was the day before. He was passing notes. He pushed himself away from the defense table and largely sat like that. They never seemed to make eye contact with one another, not even after she was crying about having loved him once and planning and participating in these freak-off parties because she feared him and she wanted to make him happy, but feeling worthless, feeling disgusting because she didn't want to do it. Now, with each moment, testimony became more and more graphic. Her delivery, though, it never changed. It was matter of fact, steady, calm. At times, she was even critical of herself. walking us all through how a 10-album record deal came over a 10-year period of abuse and sexual humiliation.
With Jane's testimony gripping the courtroom, the pressure now shifts entirely to Diddy's defense team, their task. Convince the jury that Jane's account has cracks big enough to cast doubt on the entire prosecution's case, but how do you dismantle a testimony so detailed, so vivid, and so emotionally loaded? This is the uphill battle Diddy's lawyers face, and their strategy, while predictable, is bound to get messy. The defense is expected to rely on a playbook commonly seen in high-profile cases like this. First and foremost, they'll aim straight at Jane's credibility. They'll likely raise questions about her motives, why she's coming forward now, whether financial incentives or broader grudges play a role, and whether her accusations could be embellished or even invented. This is a classic tactic, especially in cases involving powerful figures, where an accuser's intentions are often put under a microscope. For Diddy's team, every inconsistency in Jane's story, no matter how small, will be treated as an opening to plant doubt in the minds of the jury, but it won't stop there. Jane's timeline of events is also likely to come under heavy scrutiny. The defense might argue that her vivid recollections of freak-offs and Diddy's alleged control clash with documented facts like public appearances, witness schedules, or even hotel bookings. In cases like this, defense teams often comb through every available record looking for anything that could contradict or weaken the accuser's claims. If they can find even a sliver of confusion in Jane's version of events, they'll use it to suggest that other parts of her story might also be flawed. Then there's the issue of corroborating evidence. While Jane has painted a painful and devastating picture of what she says happened during her relationship with Diddy, the defense may argue that much of it is built on her word alone, without additional witnesses or physical evidence directly supporting her claims. The defense could try to frame her accusations as at best unsubstantiated and at worst fabricated. This strategy isn't just about poking holes, it's about planting seeds of uncertainty. In a federal criminal trial, the jury doesn't need to be completely sure of Diddy's innocence, they just need enough doubt to prevent a conviction. That said, the task is far from simple. Jane's testimony isn't just detailed, it's protected by measures that highlight the gravity of her allegations. Her identity, for instance, is sealed not just as a privacy consideration, but because the court recognizes the potential risks she faces if her name were publicized. This kind of protection often sways public perception, signaling that the allegations are serious enough to warrant an extraordinary effort to safeguard the accuser. For a jury that can add weight to her claims, making it harder for the defense to frame her as unreliable or opportunistic, and juries tend to be more sympathetic to alleged victims when their vulnerabilities, like being young, controlled, and isolated, are emphasized over time. Defense attorneys in high-profile cases often walk a fine line, understanding that aggressiveness toward an accuser can backfire, especially in the court of public opinion. But it's also no secret that these trials often feel like a battle over public narrative as much as legal facts. The risk for Diddy's team is clear. If they go too far in tearing apart Jane's story, they could find themselves criticized for victim blaming, a label that wouldn't just hurt their case but could further damage Diddy's already fragile reputation. And make no mistake, the stakes here extend far beyond the courtroom. If Jane's testimony holds up, and the jury finds her story credible, the consequences for Diddy are catastrophic. A guilty verdict on federal charges could mean prison time, but even beyond that, his image as a cultural titan would be shattered. This isn't just about avoiding a conviction, it's about salvaging what's left of a public persona that has long been larger than life. For survivors of abuse watching this trial, Jane's testimony and its outcome have implications that ripple far past this one case. It's a test of how systems of power and celebrity influence are challenged, and whether someone like Diddy can truly ever be held accountable. As for what happens next, Diddy's future hinges on whether his defense team can knock down the foundation Jane has built with her testimony, and with more witnesses expected to take the stand, the pressure to undermine Jane's story only grows. Will the defense find something, anything that shifts the momentum, or has Jane's bombshell already sealed their fate?
Is he running an entertainment and fashion industry, or is he running essentially a criminal organization?
By the way, we have a poll up right now. You can participate in it. Do you think Cassie Ventura was a victim or partner in this? Ready for this? 82%. Well, this doesn't say it. This doesn't make sense. 82% say yes. I don't know if that's yes. So I think we need clarification. 82% say victim or partner. We'll get a clarification on that.
By the way,
right now.
that's my answer to that question.
Oh, okay.
The victim or
82% say victim. 82% say victim. Maybe based on we're reporting on the testimony right now.
I mean, I think she is a victim if the allegations are true, but also she is involved in some of the criminal act. I mean, she's getting those prostitutes, right? She's making payments to them, allegedly. She's having them come. So she's involved in some of the alleged criminal activity. And that's an interesting point that wouldn't just apply to her. Other people in his orbit might be some combination of victim and co-conspirator.
You know what? That video changed everything. Because the argument would be, what do you think happens if she says no?
Yeah.
What do you think happens if she says, I'm not in the mood for a freak off tonight. I'm not going to pay to dance. That's what's going to happen. That video is arguably the most important piece of evidence because it sets the stage when we're talking about coercion or force. Question from Angelina. How old was Cassie when they first started dating? I think she was 19 years old. So you're talking about a 17-year age difference. That's important. It's an important factor if you're talking about power and control, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The fact that he's older and obviously has much more power anyway.
Sherry Williams asks, what kind of time is Diddy facing if he's found guilty?
Jane's testimony has cracked open a window into the darker side of fame, the side that shows how power and wealth can be used to exploit and control. This trial isn't just about Sean Diddy Combs, it's a reflection of the broader structure that has protected powerful figures for decades. If Jane's story resonates, it could mark a turning point not just for this case, but for how victims of similar abuse are heard and believed. Will the jury side with Jane's vivid and chilling account, or will Diddy's defense managed to dismantle her credibility? The stakes couldn't feel more monumental.